We'll just
the amount of charming that we normally are.
Be the normal amount of charming. Hi, everybody. We're live. Welcome to my Patreon Hangout. This is actually the first of two that I'm going to do in January because I didn't do one in December because I am a poor planner. And I thought, like, I think it was 2 days before Christmas. I thought, shit, Christmas is on a Sunday this month. And I haven't had a Patreon Hangout yet. What am I going to do? So,
oops.
And then the next one I think was right on New Year's Day.
Well, of course, because Christmas and New Year's are exactly a week apart.
Right. So you get Christmas Sunday, you get New Year's Sunday. So it's like, oh, that's not going to work. So here we are. Glad you could make it. And yeah, it's cool. We have I think we do have a full house for this hangout. So this is awesome. Thanks everybody for showing up. I had a nice Christmas. How did everybody else have a good Christmas? Or how was everybody else's Christmas, I should say, if I want to speak English?
Terrible.
Terrible?
Terrible.
Yeah. I have a whole story for that if you want to get into it.
Well, I mean, I won't force you to tell it if you don't want to talk about it.
My dad got me a punching bag with Donald Trump's face on it.
Oh, now that should be the go-to gift.
It's already a good gift.
I'd get one of those myself, except it'd probably last roughly 30 seconds.
If my video was working, I would show it to you, but instead you get to look at my cat, who is clearly the superior orange-faced being of all orange-faced beings.
Yes.
I'll tell you what, I got some nice stuff. I presume everyone here has seen Sully by now.
I
haven't seen it yet.
The monster from Monsters Inc.
Not exactly. No. Sort of this gentleman with mild goatee, whitish hair, flies a Airbus 320, and is rather skilled at gliding, as it turns out.
He's good at river landings.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, the way they tell the story, it's, I don't know. I won't spoil it for you. Just go and see it. But that's the other thing I wanted to mention is, as at least some of you know, this past February, I got myself a Ford Mustang GT, which I love dearly. My wife got me, number one, some very nice heavyweight winter floor mats for the front because we do live in Cleveland and it's ugly up here. But she also got me a one-day high-performance driver's course at Mid-Ohio, which is going to be very nice because that one thing I have always wanted to do is learn how to drive fast well. And that it's not something I particularly think you can teach yourself, but it's something these guys do as a matter of course, and it'll be my entry into that whole business. And it's
that's great.
It should be a lot of fun.
Sounds like a lot of fun. Yeah.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah. I got 3 bottles of whiskey for Christmas.
Ooh, what kind of whiskey?
2 bottles of Jack and a bottle of Crown.
Yeah, I ought to probably start asking. I mean, I've got ridiculous expensive tastes when it comes to whiskey. Anybody who knows me knows I'm a single malt nut. And Glenlivet, Macallan, Aberlour, and those are the inexpensive ones. I mean, you can get into a $100 bottle of whiskey without even breathing hard if you're talking about single malts anymore.
Yeah, I had a joke all planned for election night. And the fact that I didn't get to do it is the least of all the tragedies that happened that night. But I was going to say, you can tell the difference between the Republicans and the Democrats at the liquor store by who's buying champagne and who's buying whiskey. And you probably could. It just didn't work out the way I thought it would.
There's this one scene out of The American President that I've been thinking about a lot lately. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
Yeah, a long time ago I saw it.
Yeah, there was a scene where the president was slipping in the polls and the guy was yelling at him and he's like, look, if they want to listen to this guy, and the guy cuts him off, it's like, you haven't given him a choice. He's like, in the absence of genuine leadership, they'll take anyone who steps up to the mic. And they go back to the president and he says, we've had presidents that were beloved that couldn't find a coherent sentence with two hands and a flashlight. He's like, people don't take that because they want leadership. They take it because they don't know the difference. I'm butchering the quote, but
Yeah, I remember the quote.
It makes a point, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And what's even scarier, I mean, I look at the current, I mean, the original requirements for president. I mean, natural born citizen over 35 years old. That's it. Am I right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Pretty much.
Yep.
And I mean, at this point, I mean, whether Trump could match up to anything further than that or not, I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, we need better. We need better. And the hell of it is, we almost certainly will never legislate to get better. At least not in the foreseeable future.
Well, it's like, I mean, a lot of people have made this joke, but I first heard it. David Letterman said it during the campaign when he was talking about just Trump as the candidate. And he said, you know, we tell kids in this country when they're growing up that anybody can be president. And now we're starting to realize, gosh, that's true.
Yeah, and the first time, because I was making that same joke with Dubya, 12, 16 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, one of the worst things about Trump, and it's such a long list, I can say one of the worst because it's not even near the top of the list, but, is the fact that he forces me to reevaluate George W. Bush and to realize that by just by comparison, he wasn't as bad as I thought he was, because even though he was awful, he was absolutely an awful president and he harmed this country in so many ways. At least he had government experience. At least he had some semblance. I mean, we used to think, remember those good old innocent days when we thought, oh, George W. Bush, he sounds so dumb. He can hardly talk. Oh, please. I would beg for a George W.
Right. Yeah.
I would beg for a George W. Bush speech right about now.
Yeah,
anything.
God, I know, right?
The very fact that we talk about being able to tolerate, Pence as president, when and if Trump gets impeached
or dies.
Yeah.
Or decides he's done and just quits.
Well,
I didn't know this was going to be real work. I'm out.
What do you mean the vice president can't do most of it?
Well, he could pull a Palin and just resign, but
I mean, that was the first thing that I thought because during the campaign after he named Pence as his running mate, the message he was sending was, "Oh, Pence is going to do most of the actual governing. I'll just sort of," and it's like, no, dipshit. The Constitution says it's your job. The Constitution doesn't say the vice president has authority to do anything. It's your job.
Bear in mind that the Republicans actually like Pence and they don't like Trump. So the chances, because of course people on both sides have been saying, "Oh, he's going to do something stupid. He's going to get impeached and kicked out of office." Or something. And the Republicans would love that. Not only would the Democrats love that, the Republicans would love that because then they have Pence in office, and Pence actually kind of plays ball with them. Unlike,
I honestly don't expect the Republicans to impeach him ever, no matter what he does.
No,
I don't know.
They're making excuses. Well, I kind of go with John on this. I think because they've done nothing but make excuses for him so far. I mean, anytime he's said he's done nothing but put his foot in his mouth since the election, tweeted all kinds of just irresponsible, reckless things, lied his ass off. In other words, typical Trump stuff. And the Republicans have done nothing but make
his mouth that it's coming out his butt.
Yeah, and the Republicans have done nothing but make excuses for him. And
now
say,
in office,
they're lining up at the White House glory hole.
Exactly.
Yep.
Because he's
What's
their
scarier
guy.
is that exactly. What's scarier is the people who were against him at first. There was division initially, and then like months later, they'll come back, tail between their legs, and say, "No, he's all right."
Yeah.
What's going on behind the scenes? It's kind of scary. You wonder what's.
Well, because he won. Because he won. That's the one and only reason, isn't it? It's remarkable how quick their principles disappeared when he won, and they were like, "Oh, actually, Trump might not be so bad. I think we should work with him." The same people who, like Mitt Romney, a year ago, Mitt Romney gave a speech, said Donald Trump is an embarrassment to this party. He's an embarrassment to this country. We cannot allow this man. And now he's like, well, maybe I'll be a Secretary of State.
Exactly.
And he didn't get picked, but he took the meeting instead of saying, no, actually, I'm not going to be your Secretary of State.
Exactly.
At this point, we wish he was Secretary of State.
I know.
This jackass Tillerson scares the life out of me because there's this. I've forgotten where I saw this article, but apparently Tillerson, in working with Exxon, has actively acted against U.S. interests in promoting Exxon And I mean, what's to stop him now if he gets in?
Yeah, they're all
I mean,
pretty scary. The education,
DeVos,
she's just
that
evil.
bitch.
Yeah. Well, and the guy he just appointed to head the SEC, who is a former
Another
Wall
Goldman
Street
Probably
lawyer.
Goldman
Yeah.
Sachs, almost certainly.
Yeah, I mean,
It's been a joke that every candidate he picks for as cabinet position openly opposes the very office they're now running for.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
That's
that-
his freaking qualification that he's looking for.
I think
and he's got the living balls to say that he's for the little guy named. I'm doing this for
Drain
the
the
little
swamp.
guy. Yeah.
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 When will we
Okay.
pick El Chapo
Donald-
to run the DEA?
Hillary's in bed with Wall Street. Becomes
needs to-
president. Appoints fucking Wall Street.
And you know, my favorite was when Newt Gingrich said to NPR, "Well, actually, I don't think he's draining the swamp anymore." And then Trump called up Newt and said, "I'm still
Yes.
draining the swamp." And Newt actually made a video and said, "Yeah, sorry, he's still
It,
draining
it
the
was
swamp."
it was
He's
mistaken
draining
language.
the swamp
It
so
was
that
a
he can
mistake.
find the refined people who are in the swamp. So
Yeah, it was a mistake of language. He's not draining the swamp. He's tapping it.
Exactly. he's pumping stuff out of it, but he's not just throwing it away. He's fucking using it. For
He's
stuff.
bottling it and selling it like seltzer water.
Yeah.
He's dredging it a bit to get the bottom.
It's the best filtered water ever.
Yeah, he's it's draining, but it's only draining into the depths of the horrid pit that he excavated beneath it in order to find his cabinet members in the festering depths.
He had to drain it
boy.
so he could find the bottom feeders.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Put in the work.
speaking of past Republican candidates, I just want to make the point that Donald Trump right now is only 2 years younger than McCain was when he ran, and we were talking about how old McCain was.
Yeah.
So no one ever mentions Trump's age.
I
And
know,
McCain
they
actually-
mention Hillary's
Actually, it does
age,
get
and yet they
mentioned
don't
here and
mention
there.
Trump's age.
And McCain actually has somewhat of a personal history to suggest that he has some physical toughness.
Yeah.
Trump is
Yeah.
nothing. Trump is nothing.
I like people who win.
Emotional
Don't
toughness.
Yeah.
Trump-
Emotion, yeah, he
I'm
has
going to
emotional
go out on a
toughness.
limb. Trump would do worse than me on a mile run. I suck at the mile run.
I want to see what would happen if Trump had been on the deck of the Forest Stall instead of McCain. I don't think it would.
I would like to see Trump strap on an A4 and pull 6 or 7 Gs.
Yeah, really.
Honestly, I'd like to see him do a jumping jack. I don't think he can do a jumping jack.
Climb stairs. I mean, he rode the escalator down to his announcement, so.
I'd like to see him pay attention to a person for 5 consecutive minutes without looking
Oh.
away or doing something else. Let's
Yeah.
just establish that floor first. Let's
He's got the
establish
best attention. He's got the greatest attention. He's got the most attention out of anyone.
how much.
I'm
how
the
much
best attention keeper you ever saw. My attention's huge.
I
how
don't
much-
know who else is looking forward to the hairstyle Trump will be sporting on the 20th.
I hope it's a windy day.
Does it,
I hope it's super windy.
does it count
Yes.
as styling?
I
for him?
have this bizarre vindictive fantasy that on Inauguration Day, it's a beautiful day, it's all sweeping and lovely, and as he begins his speech, a bald eagle flies over the stadium and sits on his head.
Oh,
It's not his toupee. Either that or it mistakes his toupee for a small animal, swoops down, and grabs the fucker off of his
Yeah.
stupid head.
just
Let's be
rips
honest.
the-
He's just as likely to shit on a bald eagle as the other way around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true.
The
know,
great symbolism of the eagle landing on his head and him just grabbing it and strangling it.
He's like, crew's up there to hold it down. I'm going to take a shit on it.
Get this bird off of me. Yeah, who
They
else?
probably get into a tweet fight with the eagle.
Exactly. Exactly.
We need to change our national bird. The eagle is a disgusting animal.
You know, and never mind the eagle. You know, after he's done with his bloviating from the dais, I've got one word of advice for him for the drive to 1600 Pennsylvania. Stay in the car because I'll tell you what, it's going to be raining eggs.
Yeah,
It's going to be raining eggs, boys.
I hope
Well,
it
he
is.
doesn't, he doesn't even want to live there full time.
Well, you know, he wants to live
it.
in his own personal whatever have you, which is not exactly going to work out the greatest. And I can just see the Secret Service having nightmares about that.
They already have been with how much he's been there.
Yeah, really. I'm hoping that there's a continual chorus of boos during his entire inaugural address.
Oh, depend on that.
I mean, just I want people there to not give him a chance to get a word out. I mean, obviously he's going to be able to talk because he's going to be amplified, but just have the audience.
Vuvuzelas.
Oh my god.
He's gonna be like, "Hey, you should let me talk. This is my safe space."
No, hey, I'm the president now. You have to pay attention to me.
You have to like me now.
The only time that I would approve of a vuvuzela being used.
I was thinking, but about that, his well established lack of an attention span. How many times do you think that the people who were briefing him in that intelligence briefing had to do like the preschool teacher clap to get him to pay attention? Like, Mr. Trump,
Turn the lights on and off.
What did I just say? Russia is our friend. No, fuck.
No, yeah. Read the paper I gave.
I already tweeted praise to Putin. Sorry, I should have been paying attention.
Well, then didn't he said something. He went out to that. They had that intelligence briefing about the Russia hacks, and for like the whole, right up until then, he was saying this is ridiculous. There was no hacking. These, blah blah blah. And then after the meeting, he comes out and he says something like the most non-committal shit imaginable. Like, well, maybe there's a possibility there might be something to it. And then like the New York Times reads the report that he was given that was declassified, and they're like, oh yeah, the CIA said there's incredibly strong evidence that Russia interfered in the election, and Trump's reaction was, oh, there's maybe a possibility.
Yeah, the problem
they didn't hack the voting machines, so they didn't hack.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
Yeah, the problem is simple. Nobody can know more than Trump. That's Trump's first axiom.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty much.
I called for investigation of the CIA rather than anything else to see where the leak came from to New York Times.
Yeah, and worse yet, he's talking about restructuring the entire intelligence apparatus of the United States, which I'll tell you what, I think that's liable to be as destructive as what happened when Dubya took, like FEMA and all the other organizations and completely, reshuffled them. And then, of course, when Katrina comes along, FEMA's sort of going, hey, how do I deal with this?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, there are all kinds of reasons to be critical, to be skeptical, to worry about certain parts of our national intelligence apparatus. I mean, it is certainly not perfect, and it has certainly, done its share of bad things. But no one has yet explained to me how he intends to be president if he completely alienates the intelligence community.
Yeah.
Like if you just completely flush that down the toilet and say, this is ridiculous, I don't trust any of this. How are you going to be president if the people whose job it is to inform you of what is going on in the rest of the world are people that you just are not listening to at all?
America first, I guess. Isolationism all the way. Don't care anymore.
He just wants to be exactly as informed as the people who voted for him.
Boy, did you just say something right. Wow.
That was basically his campaign slogan. I'm as ignorant and prejudiced as you. Vote for me.
It strikes me that I think all 10 of us in this room are more informed than he is.
Well, that's what you call damning with faint praise.
Yeah, the scary thing to me is I pride myself in keeping myself informed. My daughter is a news producer for a TV station in Nashville. And I shudder to think what she knows that I don't.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, she's hip deep in this. Hell, hip deep. She's probably eyebrows deep.
Yeah.
And yet it's interesting. I talked to her the other day, and she says she's thinking about getting out of the business because too many people are more interested in having their biases and their, prejudices reinforced than they are in getting actual news.
Oh yeah,
and that's disturbing to me as hell.
Yeah, that's one of those things where it's like I'm sad to hear that sort of thing because I've heard that from other people too, who either work in like the news industry themselves or know people who do. I mean, it's like it makes me sad, but at the same time, I completely understand it. It's like It's like when people say I can't, I'm a public school teacher, but I just can't take it anymore. I'm gonna go do something else for a living, or I'm a cop and I just can't do it anymore. You know, nobody wants to be held accountable to anything. You know, I try to be, and so I'm just gonna go find something else to do for a living. It's like, that's upsetting because we need good people in those professions doing that very important work the right way. But at the same time, it's like, how can you blame somebody for saying
It's understandable if they don't have any support from the top, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I can't. How could you blame anybody who wanted to be a journalist, wanted to be a reporter, wanted to be a news producer, whatever, because they thought it was a good job and they cared about, you know, telling stories and telling the facts to people, and you know, and how can you blame anybody for saying, you know, the hell with this? This just isn't what I thought it was anymore, and going to do something else. I can't possibly hold it against anybody.
And the worst part of it is it starts becoming a race to the lowest common denominator, and. Yeah, well, pardon me. Yeah, but and
sadly, it's not just those fields. It's pretty much all of the social services fields. I got a cousin who used to be a social worker and quit for those reasons, and is doing something else now.
That's interesting. My wife is a social worker, and she's hip deep in it. Of course, she's hooked up with an insurance company, so I mean, she's, you know, got almost guaranteed work going for her, and that, you know, that's going to keep her above water. But some of these other folks, especially independents, it's got to be a scary scenario for them.
Well, especially with the way things are going now, where you have an administration coming in at the federal level that cares nothing for their line of work, that cares nothing for the people they're supposed to help, that
while at the same time giving them lip service up the yin yang.
Exactly. Saying I'm on your side, I'm going to make things better for you, and then planning from day one to gut the services that these people depend on.
Exactly.
I mean,
and even the jobs. I work for the state, and we got sort of an ominous email. You know, I work in an area where we help get people set up with the ACA, with Obamacare. And so it's like, who knows in 6 months if we'll even still be working there. So
yeah,
I don't know.
You know, out of all this, the silver lining that I've personally seen is I found how passionately my brother feels about this, because he's typically a very quiet, reserved guy, and I know he's generally left-leaning like I am. But just last night we were at my mother's place, and someone made some passing snide comment about people living in subsidized housing, and just kind of mocking people who live on welfare and things like that. And he didn't say anything. I saw him kind of like stiffen, and I thought he wanted to say something, but he didn't. And then when we were back in the car, this quiet, reserved guy just fucking goes off, and he's like, I cannot believe my fucking mother believes that. And just for like the entire drive home, he's like, does she not know this? Does she not know this? Like, you know, how are they supposed to pull themselves up by the bootstraps if you take their fucking boots? You know?
Yeah.
And like, it was just like, oh my God, I love you, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame that it took something like this to fire people up. But I mean, if the country makes it through the next 4 years, you know, hopefully it will serve. It will be like, you know, a rallying point. It'll be like, okay, you remember? Okay, what we just lived through, we can't let that happen ever again. Or at least not in our lifetime, at least not in this generation. We can't ever do this again.
Yeah, but didn't we go through that with Dubya? And what did we learn from it? Or at least those who voted for him, what did they learn from it?
Yeah, if you remember, it takes big things like that to get people political. I mean,
well, the sad part of it is, I mean, the lesson that the Republicans learned from it was that racism and fear mongering gets you elected. And we've done very little to dissuade them of that.
They don't think. I mean, if they're anything like my family, they don't think of it as fear-mongering or race-baiting.
Oh, no.
At all.
That's their reality.
I don't know how
it's the reality that they want to believe in. You know, again, post-truth, you know, facts don't matter.
But how can you look at, like, saying that the president is a secret Muslim who hates America and not be like, that's fear-mongering and race-baiting? It's like, no, it's just because he's lying about his religion. And it's like, no, it's not because he's lying about his religion, because if he said he was secretly a Jew, you'd be like, eh. It's because he's a secret Muslim that it's a good fight.
Yeah.
You know what the whole Trump victory felt like? Like, okay, do any of you
Kicking
play
the
like
balls?
D&D or anything like that?
Oh,
It's like you're midway through the final boss of the whole goddamn campaign. You almost there. You can freaking taste it. Then final round that you think the boss is going to be alive, they roll a nat 20, fucking crit you, you're dead, and you just have to watch as you fail.
I was like, well, that's 6 months down the drain.
I felt similar because I was in that hangout after you, Steve, the night of the election, and I just remember how you see us slowly decompensate as the night was going on, and then all the expletives that rang out as soon as we went off air.
I was watching that, and when Florida went red, and you went, "Oh shit!"
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess, I mean, it's a good experience to remember that you should never be too confident. You know, you should never take it for granted, because I mean, yeah, I think everybody I knew who is politically, you know, in agreement with me about most stuff, we all expected Hillary to win. And the most was a few of my friends or acquaintances would say, well, let's not get too ahead of ourselves. I mean, Trump still has a chance, but nobody was saying, yeah, Trump's going to win. You better hold on to your shit. And when it happened, it was like, are you fucking kidding me? This cannot possibly be what happened.
I'd say one of the interesting things, I went to a couple meetings yesterday with some of the high-ranking Democrats in Pennsylvania. I actually got to meet the governor yesterday.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wow. Oh, nice.
Nice.
And Senator Bob Casey, that was also pretty cool.
Cool.
Yeah, he's really looking to dig in for a fight against Trump, which is really encouraging. Yeah, if you look on him in social media, he's really like, fuck Betsy DeVos, fuck all these people he's going.
I hope so, man.
But one of the things that was brought up in one of these meetings, and I really resonated with me, is they said, when you get right down to it, though, Trump was, for the Republicans, was just the icing on the cake. Because without that victory, they still got the Senate. They still have a chokehold on the House. They still have the majority of the governors.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
Mandarin all the way.
Yeah, it's like
we live in the darkest timeline.
And state legislatures too, not just governors, but
it's like,
well, now here's a poser for you though. Since we're in this situation, are we potentially looking at a resurgence in political activism and civil disobedience, the likes of which we haven't seen since the 60s? Is it possible?
Potentially.
I mean, look, Aaron Ra is looking at running for a state senate.
He's running, period.
Yeah.
He's already announced.
Actually, next year, I might be running for state representative.
Good.
Whoa.
That's awesome.
I'm
really looking at it. Like our local state rep hasn't been challenged in years. I think I can put together a platform that would appeal to a rural Pennsylvania. And like one of the first meetings I went to yesterday was like a meeting for Democrats specifically from rural areas of Pennsylvania.
Show up drunk, man.
Because they're like we look terrible there this year. We got to do better there.
Well, that's go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that's really good to hear, because initially I was concerned about the whole reach across the aisle Democrats. There is no other side for this. You know, you're dismantling so much that there is no other side. Democrats don't have anything to lose anyway. They've got to fight.
Absolutely. Well, the Republicans didn't want to work with Democrats when Democrats were in charge. And Democrats wanted to work with them, wanted to include them in the process. They gave them nothing. So what makes you think the Republicans will work with Democrats now that they run everything?
Exactly.
It's preposterous.
The only thing that may cause that is if the Democrats can be a sufficient amount of a spoiler / filibusterer / whatever have you to get in the way of the wheels turning.
Well,
I do have some hope.
Most of it, I think, is hoping for a couple of swing votes in the Senate. I think John McCain might be one of them.
Lindsey Graham here in South Carolina is another.
Well, those two are an item, you know.
I believe it. but how do you mean?
Yeah, I mean,
You ever hear the phrase "no" in the biblical sense?
Oh God!
Oh,
Bunkmates in Hanoi.
Please, no, I don't want to picture that.
well, good for them. You know, find someone who makes you happy.
Look, if you can picture Jack McPherson and Toby Benson going at it,
Exactly.
where's your limits?
You only live once. Find someone who makes you happy. I mean, who are we to judge? If Senator McCain and Senator Graham have found each other in this dark, forbidding world, you know. Well, the thing about people getting involved in the political process more than they have been, and especially people in rural areas who are trying to gather like support for Democratic candidates like that, that's really encouraging. And I hope that happens everywhere, because I mean, to me, that's the easiest talking point in the Republican boilerplate to argue against, to contradict, is this fiction that Republicans are for the working person, that the working class is better off voting for Republicans than Democrats, when Republicans oppose labor unions, Republicans oppose the minimum wage. Trump even said at one point during the campaign that the minimum wage is too high, that wages in general are too high.
He said that out loud.
He said that out loud in front of people, in front of cameras.
Not to mention how many workers he stiffed in his ears.
Yeah. So in what world? And their answer is, well, we'll just cut taxes on the rich people, and then we'll trust the rich people to share more of their money with the poor people and pour their
Trickle down
the way people
strikes
voted
again.
and what they
Exactly.
say. They don't care about those sorts of
Pay their
issues. They're
workers
voting
more.
on other things.
Yeah, actually, that's one of the talks I listened to yesterday. Bob Casey was talking about like Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act, and he's like almost half of the babies born in America now get some sort of funding from those programs.
Oh yeah.
And then the Republicans oppose all of that, and then have the balls to say they're pro family.
Yeah,
absolutely. I live in a rural area that is on average fairly low income. It's certainly my region of Western Maryland is by far the poorest region of the state. Down toward in the southeast, there are some poor sections as well, but for the most part, in terms of like a large geographical region, Western Maryland is the poorest region, the worst educated, the most sparsely populated. It's the shithole of the state. And I think almost every person I know who is my age, except for the handful who came from fairly well-off families, when they have children, they use WIC. They take advantage of SNAP. I mean, it's almost universal. They take advantage of these programs for nutrition assistance for their kids, and yet they vote Republican. They vote for candidates and for a party that wants to destroy this, that wants to get, and they know that you don't live on it forever. You don't take advantage of it for the rest of your life. It's something that as it is with most people, you use it for a few years at most until you can get on your feet on your own. You get a better job, or you get into a financial situation where you can afford to pay for that yourself, and then you don't use it anymore. They push this fiction that, well, once you get on welfare, you're on it for the rest of your life, and once you get on unemployment, you're on it for the rest of your life. And people are just making shit up to get on disability so they don't have to work, and they're having more kids so they can get a bigger WIC check. So
that was gone ages ago. There's a cap on how much you get. How many kids
20 years ago, that might have been the case.
And
These days, it's not happening.
And the people who buy that line of bullshit and vote for the candidates who feed it to them know that it's not true, because they lived it. They know that they weren't on welfare for their whole life. They know that it was just a stopgap, that it was just something that they needed for a few months or a few years to keep their head above water. They know that it's not true. And they vote for people who are demonizing people like them anyway.
They live in a fantasy world.
Not people like them.
The other people.
See, they were strong enough to get themselves out of it. They're thinking about all the other people who weren't.
So it doesn't count. Yeah,
exactly.
Strong enough to get them out of it with $1 million loan. And having grown up in a similar area, Steve, it's just like the feeling I get is that they feel like the Democrats have left them behind rather than they believe the Republicans. So I don't know how we get past that belief. That this idea that the Democrats only help people in cities, not like there aren't people without money in the cities. So I'm
The
trying
way
to
you
figure
get
this out.
past that is you organize the rural Republicans, the rural Democrats. Like what we're doing in Pennsylvania right now is looking to organize our efforts better in the rural areas. Because quite frankly, last year we looked stupid. It was embarrassing sometimes looking at how horribly organized we were.
Yeah, it's the same way in my area too, Jacob. I mean, I remember, what was it, a couple years ago, one of our local Republican candidates, like the state delegate, I think, ran completely unopposed. Just there was no Democratic challenger for him at all.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the hell are we doing here? You know, I mean, I know there are Democrats in this area. Like there are, if you look hard enough, you can find elected Democrats serving in offices in this area. And we couldn't even find one person to run against the guy for state delegate. It's
like last year, my state representative was not opposed.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's why I'm like, if nobody else is going to do it, I'm going to run against him. And even if I get my ass kicked, I'm going to try.
Yeah, at least there'll be a name on the ballot. At least there'll be someone who's saying, here's an alternative. I mean,
yeah, and like I said, I think there's a way to push democratic values in the way that rural people understand. Like, for example, if I were to talk about environmental issues, I probably wouldn't be talking so much about the major talking points like global warming. I'd be like, look, we have a backwoods county that's beautiful. We have all these streams and things that people, we have a lot of people who fish here. Let's protect the rivers.
Talk about personal impact.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, find a way to bring that message to them. Like, what we're fighting for is fighting for you.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, and that this makes a difference, whether you see it immediately or not.
Yeah.
And, and turn it into something of an educational issue as well, because that's Steve, you brought this up. These people are voting against their own interests, very likely because they have no idea that they're voting against their own interests. They haven't bothered to become educated enough. This is a point I've brought up time and time again, the whole issue of the, quote, informed electorate. I always thought that James Madison said something about that. I don't know exactly who it was. But what informed electorate anymore?
Some of them know, but they feel like it doesn't matter anyway because neither is on their side. They feel disempowered. Some of them know, and they still vote.
I can't see. I've never been able to see that attitude is affordable. Yeah, I mean, it's the same attitude that got Trump elected. You got probably a bunch of people who figured, fuck this election, it's not going to work, and they just, twiddle their thumbs rather than go to the polls. And
speaking of elections,
the rest is history.
Is anyone worried about 2018 yet?
I'm worried about
2018 needs to be a major thrust for the Democrats. For no other reason than to get in Trump's face.
The specific issue I'm worried about is I'm looking at the breakup. 33 seats, obviously, in the Senate, in the U.S. Senate. 23 of those seats are Democratic seats. Only 8 of them are Republican seats. So there aren't very many seats Republicans can lose, and most of them are in very entrenched states. So 2018 is really the Democrats' election to lose here when it comes to the U.S. Senate.
Yeah.
Well, and I think they need to focus on stuff other than the Senate and the House. I mean, I think that we've already mentioned it a couple of times, the fact that the Republican control goes down to the state level, which is just as toxic as at the federal.
That's how they take control of the Congress.
Yeah, I mean, we need to, Democrats in 2018, states that have elections, states that have gubernatorial elections or state legislature elections, that needs to be a priority. I mean,
yeah, and it is. I will say
congressional
elections. When I was in the meetings I was going to yesterday, there was a lot of emphasis on not the next presidential election, but what are the local elections this year?
Yeah.
Look at the midterms next year. Those are what we're worried about. Because something someone said is if we're not talking to people right now, why will they listen to us in 4 years when we're looking at the presidential election?
Exactly.
Yeah. It can't just be about when somebody is campaigning. The attention's, it's got to be representative government 100% of the time.
Yeah, and when those election cycles do come around, the Democrats have to be able to say to voters, relative to the efforts of the Republicans in the Trump administration, we did everything we could to try and stop this.
Yeah.
You know, we resisted as much as we could. We did everything we could to block all of these damaging things that they tried to do. And you know, if you give us some more help, if you send reinforcements in the form of more Democratic representatives and senators, then we will be able to do a better job of fighting for you and of fighting against all of these things that these people want to do to harm you and to harm your family and to harm your business and your way of life. I mean, you have to show that you have some spine, you know, that you're not going to just roll over and say, well, he's the president now, let's see if we can work together. You know,
exactly.
That's not going to work.
You know, I've been considering cities as well, city councils and things. I was thinking about the case in North Carolina where Charlotte wanted to be a safe city for trans folks, and that was sort of the catalyst, the trigger for the whole HB2 thing. I mean, they wanted to shut down even cities' ability to remain safe or come up with their own. You know, so I'm considering going to city council meetings just to see what's going on. But cities as well, you know, if you don't have a lot of time, city councils usually meet once a month, so that might be doable for some people as well.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be grassroots. And the thing about local politics is, if you get a good organized group together and if you knock on the right doors and if you send the right message in the right way, I mean, even in a very rural conservative area, you can actually succeed and get progressive candidates elected. I mean, Hagerstown, of all places, has a fairly progressive mayor right now. He's not perfect. There are things about him that where I think like, oh God, you need to do a better job. Like, especially with the recent incident we had last year of the young black girl who was assaulted by a police officer, and the mayor was basically just was 100% pro police department the whole time, and sort of said to the family of the girl, well, we should work on restorative justice, and and I said, well, did he say that to the cop who threw her around? But that aside, for the most part, if you can sort of force yourself to look away from that and think, oh God, he's a fairly progressive mayor, and he's not the sort of candidate that you would have thought a city like Hagerstown would have elected. But they did, I mean, it's so you can accomplish things that you wouldn't think were possible. But you think, oh God, a city like Hagerstown, it's very conservative and very racist and dominated by, very sort of white centered attitudes, but you can elect progressive candidates if you talk to the right people and you mobilize the right section of the vote. So the city council thing is very much worth trying. I mean, it has to start somewhere. The grassroots has to start somewhere.
Exactly.
Oh boy, we've talked about this for the entire hour. So. Not that I'm complaining, because it's very cathartic, and we've said some very cool things, I think.
We've experienced some trauma, and that, I mean, PTSD is as valid here as it is, elsewhere.
We have to talk it out.
Can I ask a question though? We had talked about the founding fathers and the informed electorate, which they didn't believe in because they gave us an electoral college.
Well, no, the electoral college was about slavery.
Yeah, mostly. The electoral college is mostly about slavery.
What is the proper response to someone who says about this past election that the electoral college did its job because it prevented places like California and New York from swinging the entire country?
Well, that's
which is baloney, because New York and the West Coast swung the elections in 2008 and 2012. So, I mean, where's their complaint there? Well, the thing is, the Electoral College didn't do their job because they didn't take, they couldn't be active. They can't look at Trump and say, God, really? Seriously? And no, we're not putting this guy in the front seat.
I would say
it was good. It was going to get along, and it has been. And until that attitude changes, we've got some serious problems.
Yeah, we can't put this guy in the front seat. We need to put him in the back in one of those kid seats.
Put him in the trunk.
Let's strap him to the front bumper, then drive really fast.
I would say the Electoral College did its job because it was created to protect white slaveholding interests.
And Steve, sadly, you're way too right.
I mean, and that's exactly what it did. The modern equivalent of white slaveholding interests. I mean,
I think the worst part is most of the faithless votes went against Hillary.
Yeah, what was with that?
I know, it's like,
I think they were hoping for a compromise candidate.
Yeah, I mean, the more time, I mean, as you all know, I was a Hillary supporter. Once the primaries were over, I was 100% for Hillary all the way. So I'm not objective in this, but I really do think as time goes on, and especially as the Trump presidency winds its way through history, that it's going to start to look more and more like, the temper tantrum of all temper tantrums, that people were like, I'm going to vote for Trump. I just don't like Hillary. Okay. You don't like her. So you vote for that guy. You vote for the human dumpster fire over there.
Well, let's not use strong words
like
like
nightmare.
human, okay?
You vote for Donald Tripe.
It's like she used a private email server. I don't like. Okay.
Most people don't even know what the fuck that means.
I know.
She has been under assault for more than about 3 decades of just being attacked for no reason because she was a very strong first lady. So.
Because she was a woman, because she had the unmitigated gall to insert herself into politics and attempt to be something more than arm decoration for Bill.
Yeah, and also they hated Bill. Bill was the only accused rapist they ever actually cared about bringing to justice. Because they didn't like him. So in this one time, they're like, oh, why aren't we listening to these women who are accusing him? Just this once. Every other time, it's like, we're just doing it to get attention.
Ignoring the list of women who are accusing the Drumpf.
Exactly. So you think we should all listen to the women who have accused Bill Clinton of sexual assault, which I agree with, by the way.
Trump.
But all the women
for the goose, sauce for the gander.
Yeah, exactly. All the women who came forward to accuse Trump of the same crimes and worse in some cases.
They're just in it for the money.
Yeah, because Bill Clinton's a fucking pauper, right? I'm sure that. I mean, it's just the hypocrisy is shocking, and the naked, blatant, shameless hypocrisy. Especially from Trump himself. And the fact that so many people are just willing to overlook it or to rationalize it or just flat out excuse it. Just say, well, I just don't care. Is shocking.
Well, what I wonder at this point is whether or not we can sustain a not business as usual attitude. I mean, I have no problem with it myself, but that I'm retired and I can be active as I feel like. The question is, the people with the 9-to-5s and, the wife and the kids and the responsibilities, can they sustain it?
Yeah, well, I know I can tell already it's going to be tough for me. And my job is talking about this shit on YouTube. And it's going to take reminders to myself. Like I have my wallpaper on my desktop is not normal. And it's becoming normal to me. You know what I mean? Like it's becoming wallpaper. Like I don't really notice it as much anymore. I just turn on my computer and that's just what it is. And that's a problem. That's because that's not what I put it there for. I put it there to remind me that it's not normal and it's becoming normal. And we cannot allow that to happen with the Trump presidency. We cannot allow it to just be, oh, well, this is just the country we live in now, I guess. That's how we lose. That's how we That's how all of these awful things that could happen wind up happening.
Well, it makes me wonder a little bit. I mean, I think back to the 60s. I think back to Vietnam, things like, the Tet Offensive and then the invasion of Cambodia that gave rise to the whole Kent State business, which was scary itself in that, I mean, I half a hair lip away from there. And I think I already told you the story of what happened the weekend before. But it just seems like the seeds are there for some genuine political activism and civil disobedience. I just don't know whether in the 21st century people are going to react the same way. And I really wonder.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the struggle is translating the incredible ability that the internet gives us to connect to each other into physical action in the real world.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody can share a petition. Anybody can, share a post. Anybody can write something or make a YouTube video and say, this is important. This is what we need to do. This. But when it comes down to, and you need to show up at this place at this time, or you need to call this phone number, or you need to write to this email address, or you need to do, you need to actually do something. And, and in many cases, leave your house and go somewhere else and stand in solidarity with people.
And do something other than pray.
Do something other than pray. Yes, yes.
I volunteer for the ACLU now.
There you
nice.
go. There you go.
Nice.
Yeah, or open your wallet if you can afford it, and donate to the ACLU if you don't have time to volunteer. Donate to the ACLU. Donate to the Southern Poverty Law Center. Donate to the Democratic Party or your local candidates that are running. I mean, there are things that it's translating the access that social media gives you to other people into actual physical action. That's the challenge. I don't think it's so much that people in this generation are lazier or are tougher to motivate. It's just that there are so many other options that you can do that feel like you're doing something. That don't amount to as much.
And if you don't have money and you don't have time, the very, very least you do is when you hear someone spotting out bullshit, don't let them get away with it.
Exactly. That's great. That's a great point. Don't let anything go by. For the next 4 years, at least, preferably for the rest of your life. Don't let anything go by. If somebody says something like the situation that you described with you and your brother.
Yeah, I was about to say, Brett, the next time your brother has that twitch, I'd look him square in the eye and say it, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Put your head on his shoulder and say, I'm right here for you, buddy. Say it. Yeah.
Can I get an amen?
I've occasionally lamented in the last month the fact that my wife and I don't have children. We don't want children. We plan not to have them. But I always thought, like, if we did have kids, they would be the perfect opportunity. They'd be the perfect excuse to have these huge arguments with our families about politics, because I could always say, you're never going to see him again. Like, I'm not raising my kids around this kind of talk. I'm not going to let people who have these kinds of attitudes be around my children. Like, that would be the perfect leverage to beat them over the head with. But now I can't do that.
And
it's kind of funny you talk about that, because I'm like, I look at myself going, hey, I'm a 30-year-old single atheist. How unelectable is that?
Yeah.
There's your campaign slogan, buddy.
Speaking of kids, I mean, my sister-in-law, I don't even know what the hell our relationship is. It's a weird line I have to follow, but
there's a lot of gray area.
Yeah, but she has this beautiful daughter who I love dearly. She's like a little 5-year-old girl. She's just adorable, and she's bright, and she's cheerful, and I think she's being raised by the most right-wing asshole I know. And it's like, don't ruin her, please. I adore her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I look at other people's children. It's like, I want to protect you from this stuff too.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I know. And then, but then there's also, I have friends who have kids who are great parents and are very conscientious about their kids and are trying to sort of, raise their kids in the right way, to be open-minded, to be accepting and tolerant, and and I think, God, that must be hard. Like, I have no idea what that's like, because I've never been a parent. I've never had to take charge of a child like that and be responsible for raising them. And in the environment that we're living in and that we're about to live in, that must be so terrifying. I mean, and especially if you are part of one of the groups that is being threatened right now. I mean, it's tough enough to be.
Right?
It's tough enough to be a white cishet person raising presumably a white cishet child and having to face, how do you get through the day in a world where this is what we have elected for our leadership? But I mean, I can't imagine what it must be like for other people to have to deal with that on top, and then all the other shit that you deal with on a daily basis on top of that.
And then all the ridiculous parent shit that is the reason why I never want to reproduce and get so annoyed by.
They're just the regular parent shit on top of everything else.
And then, like, I just get so annoyed when people assume that because I have a functional uterus, I should want to use it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. When are you going to have kids? Don't you want to have kids?
Well,
never.
When are you going to die?
It's like, I'm sorry.
I'll tell you what, guys. I had the one kid, and I mean, admittedly, my wife probably spent more time raising her than I did because I spent a lot of time in the field. But my kid's pretty neat, and I'm really glad that she's around. And that's about all I can say.
Oh, sure. I do not begrudge parents their choice to be parents. I begrudge people who try to push me to be a parent their choice to try to push me to be a parent.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I had a child, my child would be the center of my universe. I mean, it would probably be the most incredible thing that ever happened to me. But that's just not a choice that I want to make. And yeah, and you're right. I mean, my wife and I haven't gotten it so much, but other people in our families have gotten, the sort of the nudge from other relatives, like, when are you going to have kids? And it's like, I'm sorry, do you think there's not enough of us? Like, that you need to force people who don't want kids? Like, if you want to have kids, have kids. I'm all about that. If that's what you want, then go for it. But I mean, why are we pushing people who don't want to have kids to have kids? Are you worried that there aren't enough of us?
Are you worried there aren't enough shitty parents?
There are. I mean, whatever.
Do you want someone to make your parenting look good by comparison?
Whatever it is that destroys the human race ultimately, I don't think it's going to be underpopulation.
Nope.
It's going to be some catastrophic thing. It's not, and we're not going to be sitting around going, if only there had been more of us.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't
there
see
were
that.
7,000,000,001 people.
Yeah, exactly. You childless fuckers, it was your fault.
Well, really? Us childless fuckers were the only people with enough time to get out the door and fight the alien invasion.
So if they're so worried about all these children, why aren't they doing more for the foster children?
Oh, there's a good point. Oh, well, they are. They're cutting funding to foster care programs
and Planned Parenthood
and Planned Parenthood. Yeah, and creating environments where
foster kids.
Yeah, and creating environments where courts basically have no choice but to allow children to stay with unfit parents because there's nothing else you can do with them.
Because then they might be given to a gay couple.
Yeah.
And that would be a tragedy.
Yeah. What can you imagine living in a world where orphan children are given to families that love them and want them? That would be awful.
Oh, now I'm gonna have nightmares. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah. but they would have two mommies or two daddies. Oh God, they would.
Well, they could always call one dad and the other daddy to avoid confusion.
They might turn out like Neil Patrick Harris's kids. Like, what is the where's the nightmare story? Where's the kid who was raised by two dads or two moms that turned out to be like a serial killer that they can point to? Because every time I see kids raised by, and obviously it's a skewed sample, but I mean, whenever I see kids raised by same-sex couples, the kids always seem fucking put together and able to, they don't
Part
seem
of that
warped
is they
or fucked
have
up.
to be. They're probably under a microscope more than parents who just shoot out as many kids as they want.
Yeah.
So they have to be.
Yeah, I still remember that one young man, I believe was 18 years old. It was the son of a lesbian couple, and he's standing up in front of, I think it's like a state legislature or something like that, talking about rights for gay parents. I don't know if you ever, it's on YouTube somewhere. Kid is freaking brilliant. I mean, well spoken, thought out statement, whole 9 yards. I mean, any parent, I don't care what their polarity is, would be beyond proud.
Polarity, I like that.
Remember, they only care about families that were created by umbilical cords. If you don't have that combination, you don't count.
Yes, direct genetic relatives are the only legitimate form of family.
Mm-hmm.
And we've always thought that. There's you know.
And Adam and Steve don't qualify.
Yeah. Steve wouldn't have eaten the apple. I can, as a Steve myself, I can.
Are you saying he would have gone for the banana?
You know what? Maybe he would have. Maybe he would have, and God bless him. It's a free country. You can make whatever choices you want.
How would Steve have reacted to the talking snake? That's the real question.
Why are you the only animal around here that can talk? Has anybody?
Heidi Thaler, new in town.
I knew something was a little weird around here because I just popped into existence from nothing. But I mean, none of the other animals are talking. Well, the donkey. The donkey talks a little.
Oh yeah.
Later. Wait for Balaam to show up. He'll run his mouth all over the place.
God, will you shut him up? What? Did anybody even ask him anything?
If you go later, you get Jonathan and David. So
yeah.
Ooh, there you go.
Snake, I really don't want to mention this, but you kind of have a lisp, and I don't want to be insensitive, but.
And then he crawls back up the tree. I can't believe you mentioned the lisp.
I'm sorry, it's like a requisite joke that I had to make because every time you frickin' see snakes that talk in pop culture, they talk with a fucking lisp. It's a talking snake. You can divorce it enough from the fact that it's a snake to not give it a fucking lisp.
Someone just needs to do that, and then that'll be established. Like they just need to have a talking snake character who slithers up to somebody and just goes, "Hey, how's it going?" It's like there was an episode of Maverick I always remember where Maverick encountered two Native Americans like in the woods, and Maverick sees them and they're in their traditional like American Indian garb. And he sees him and he gets real stiff and he looks at him and he goes, "How?" And one of the Indian guys goes, "Hey, how's it going?" It's completely.
There was an episode of MASH where they showed like the two American people eating something with chopsticks and the Korean guy using a fork.
Like, what are you doing?
It's much easier.
Here's a fork, dipshit.
I like chopsticks with Chinese.
Yeah, me too.
Japanese, yeah.
It makes me feel like I have a skill.
Well, call me crazy, but I actually think it tastes better. But I may be full of beans too. So
I don't know. Maybe
I can't do the rice, but the other stuff.
Are you into some woo that says you can't let the metal touch the food?
No,
it changes the flavor.
Yeah, there's all sorts of weird psychological effects on flavors and things. Like I will swear up and down that sandwiches taste better if they're cut diagonally. Yeah. But like there is literally no scientific basis for that. It's just something that my brain does because that's the way I was served sandwiches as a child.
Yeah, it's just personal preference. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, as long as you don't try to elevate it to a scientific fact, as long as you don't say, "No, it is a fact that diagonally cut sandwiches taste better."
Yeah, there's like the only thing that I could possibly claim as a scientific fact among my bizarre food tastes is that I don't like Brussels sprouts because I can taste a certain thing that is correlated with tasting that kind of vegetables as bitter. And I have had the test for that too. There's like this paper that has the stuff on it that you can just, stick on your tongue, and if it tastes bitter, then you can taste this thing.
So,
oh my God, it tasted so bitter.
So anytime somebody tries to serve you Brussels sprouts, you just whip out the certificate, you whip out your test
No,
result.
there's no certificate.
Hey, who needs the excuse? Brussels sprouts are gross to begin with. Period. End of discussion.
I know, right? But like somehow everyone in my family loves them, except for me.
Non de gustibus.
Yep.
Well, see, I think the same thing about red velvet cake, and I'm told I'm weird.
Oh, I love red velvet cake.
I can't stand
that's my favorite cake. Oh,
Red velvet cake is one of those things where when it's good, it's amazing, and when it's bad, it's horrible.
That's true. A bad red velvet cake is kind of. I thought that was going to be good.
But when it's good, it's fucking amazing.
Yeah, I love red velvet cake, but people are allowed to like what they like,
of course,
and to hate what they hate. People are even allowed to hate what I like.
Fuck them.
Fuck them. Exactly. All right, so I guess I will draw this to a close. I think we've gone a few minutes over, but that's fine because I couldn't talk for the first couple of minutes and we were a little bit late.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for joining me. This was great. It was a nice way to start off the new year. Because I missed doing the Hangout in December, I'm going to do another one this month in 3 weeks on the 29th, which is the final Sunday of January. So be back for that. And thanks to everybody who's in the room with me because they're all patrons. They support my Patreon campaign, which is something that enables me to do this. And I am so grateful to them and to everyone watching who is a patron who couldn't get in. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate your support and everybody who just watches my stuff and shares my videos in general. I appreciate all the support that I get from all of you. You make what I do possible and you make my life better in ways I can't even describe. So thanks everybody for watching. Thanks all of you folks for joining me. And we'll do this again in 3 weeks. And then we'll be back on schedule until I forget the next time.
Until next Christmas rolls around, you're like, oh crap.
God damn it. Is it on a Sunday again? How is that possible?
It isn't.
It isn't. This is wrong.
Well, it is until Trump changes the calendar.
Yeah, we had the same idea. All right. Bye, everybody.